ChatGPT is dominating headlines in the tech world and increasingly in mainstream media. It's an AI bot that can answer virtually any question you ask with meaningful context. So why are schools and universities so worried? I'm joined now by Professor LEONIE ROWAN, Director of the Griffith Institute for Educational Research. Professor, welcome. Wonderful to have you with us today. Should we be concerned about ChatGPT and its use in schools and universities?
Thank you so much for your time. Great question. Like anything that comes new onto the landscape, educators have a responsibility to, ask good questions about what's happening, where's it come from, and what are the likely consequences of that. So questioning is always good, but being worried, not very helpful. ChatGPT, in my opinion, has got the absolute potential to be really, really beneficial to educators in all sorts of locations and, of course, all sorts of other professions as well. So I would encourage a stance of optimism and curiosity rather than concern and anxiety.
So there's been conversations about the fact that this should actually be banned in the world of academia, but from what you've just said, this is not the case in your opinion.
Absolutely. Well, you can't ban something that's in the world like that. You can't do that. The reasons why people want to ban it are usually tied to things like academic integrity and fears of cheating. So people are worried, for example, they've heard stories that ChatGPT can pass an exam that would set the medical student. So they're like, oh no, does this mean that our medical examination systems are inadequate? So the answer to that is obviously, well, if you are going to graduate a doctor based on one medical test that they do at one point in time, then yes, definitely you should be worried. But presumably we have much more sophisticated approaches to assessment that run across all our professions. And that's really the interesting conversation to go forward in terms of universities is ChatGPT is a thing, like it's there and it's just one thing. There's going to be exponential growth. There are websites that document dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of spin-offs every day. It's a thing. It's not going away. But it does give us that fantastic opportunity to think about how can we harness what's happening here in ways that benefit the learners that we exist to work with in the first place. So what are the positive aspects of this?
I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, actually, Professor. I guess that begs the question whether or not assessments in and of themselves need to be more individualised to essentially push back, I suppose, against artificial intelligence.
So assessments can be ineffective in really determining whether people understand something. So you can test someone's knowledge of something, like you can ask them a question, somebody might score well on a quiz. That doesn't really mean they know how to apply knowledge. It doesn't mean they understand their responsibilities with knowledge. It doesn't mean that they know how to use that knowledge to make the world, what we might all desire to be a better place. So, for example, you can have skills as a teacher and know how to work with your diverse students really, really effectively. I can't measure that through a quiz that's marked automatically online. And I can't measure that through a generic kind of essay. I need to have personalised sorts of assessment tasks. I need to see your thinking. So ChatGPT is a really good way to get people to make visible their thinking. Like you can actually use it in your classroom to start a conversation. All right, give me a foundational definition of what does autism mean, for example, and then tell me how that's going to influence your strategies for teaching with people. So you can bring ChatGPT into your classroom to work with students to save the time doing that sort of foundational knowledge work that we might need to do sometimes, and do the stuff that educators are really good at, which is helping people think, helping people problem solve, helping people understand their responsibilities to the world, helping people really recognise the impact of what they're going to do on the community that they're part of.
So if we take something like ChatGPT and we sort of move it outside the educational realm, what are the other ways that this technology can be used for good?
So ChatGPT is just a fantastic device for helping people navigate spaces. It's helping people write resumes. It's helping people from language backgrounds other than English write cover letters that can be very intimidating for some people. It's helping people start conversations. It's helping people with disabilities who use voice-to-speech text or who use communication strategies that take a lot of physical energy. It's helping them put some of the extra words, the additional text around their words. It's helping people understand financial advice. So it's actually increasing people's opportunities to get the best out of the support systems and the careers and pathways that are in the world around us.
Professor, I love the fact that you've turned what could be a very concerning story into something so positive in terms of how you believe that this can be used. Is there anything about ChatGPT though that does concern you?
Absolutely. Like anything that comes into the world, you've got to be thinking about what does it take to engage with it ethically and appropriately. So ChatGPT can be used to write really convincing scams, for example. So anything in our world is only as good as the humans that are interacting with it, right? Like anything can be used to make the world more integrated, happier, calmer, inclusive, or to try and create division. ChatGPT, interestingly, if you try and start an argument with it, it's been trained, it's been programmed, right, to be very respectful. It's actually a very good model for how to communicate effectively. So I'll just go back to that point about what am I concerned about. Yes, well, I'm concerned that people need to have the time and the space to think about how they're going to use it. And that includes thinking about, to go back to your first point, whether or not we should ban it. And if we were to do that, what opportunities are we denying people? What assumptions are we making about students? So one of the early conversations about it was, we've got to ban it because all of our university students will cheat, which is like such a negative deficit view of what university students are like, and or school students. They're not all sitting around thinking, well, I don't want to learn anything. They come to university, they pay their money because they want to discover new things. So very few of them are motivated by this mindless desire to have a shortcut through the acquisition of knowledge. But ChatGPT, it's like the days when the most envied kids at schools were the kids who had a set of encyclopedias at home. I was so jealous. All I wanted was a set of encyclopedias because it's right there. I can go look it up. Or the people who've got access to parents or siblings who've got a sort of body of knowledge that is helpful to you in your profession or your study. That's what ChatGPT is. It's a mentor that can always be there for you. And unlike a teacher or a best friend or a mentor, it doesn't get tired. It doesn't get impatient. It doesn't lose its temper with you. And you can ask it, you can say, give me an explanation of photosynthesis. And then you can say, okay, now can you make that simpler? Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Okay, that's a bit too simple. Give me another example. You can actually pitch it to yourself so it becomes this really powerful individualized learning tool so that we can make the most of if, and this is the big if that we've got to be aware of, if we take it seriously enough and respect its potential and allow people to develop what we would call the complementary skills that go with it.